سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek His mercy and we seek His forgiveness. We seek our sustenance and our guidance from Him and from Him alone. And we send our peace and blessings upon His last and final messenger, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, upon his companions and on his family, and all those who follow until the day of judgment. Allahumma ja'alna minhum. May Allah make us all from among them. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. My dear brothers and sisters, our mother Aisha radiallahu anha tells us about the story and the narration of the first revelation sent to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And it is a lengthy narration, one that we've heard many times before, one that we've taught our kids and our children, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the very first words of the Quran down on earth, the words that we know, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. But this narration, which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam narrated and told his wife Aisha radiallahu anha years later, was one that struck and shook the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to the core. An incident that he faced like no other incident in his lifetime. And yes, there were many difficult, many strenuous circumstances, many different cases where there was suffering, physical, mental, where there was slander, but this was a completely different incident. One in which a creature comes to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and orders him to do something he does not know how to do. Ma ana biqari, I cannot read, I cannot recite. I am not one who is able, who has the ability. And he's told again, and he shook, Iqra, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And he said about this every single time, it got harder and harder. And I felt I was going to die. I felt as if I was going to die. And this was an incident, again, that struck him so much so that this creature who he had never seen before, he said, I would look up and I would see him. I would look to my right and I would see him. I would look to my left and I would see him. I would turn around and I would see him. Everywhere I looked in the horizon, I would see this creature. And so he ran home to his wife Khadijah radiallahu anha, and he asked her to cover him up. And he told her something that she never heard from him before. He said, I'm afraid something bad is going to happen to him. I'm afraid the one who lived his whole life, even before prophethood, with complete optimism, said, I am afraid something bad, something evil is going to happen to me. And what I want to talk about today is the response of Khadijah radiallahu anha to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She said, Wallahi, your Lord will never disgrace you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never disgrace you. And then she mentioned 5 things to him. And I want to briefly talk about these 5 things, these 5 golden words and advices that she gave to him and was giving indirectly to us as well. She said, number 1, and she's mentioning these things after saying, your Lord will never disgrace you and will never dishonor you. She said, number 1, you are one who maintains family ties. You are one who maintains the ties of kinship. You are not one who separates and who cuts off the ties of kinship, as he was accused later on of doing, of separating and breaking apart families. She said, you are one who maintains the ties of kinship and family ties. Number 2, she said, you go out and you help the poor and needy. Rather, she said, you seek out those who are in need and you help them. You seek out those in need and you help them. Not only you go and help somebody who needs something, but you're looking to help somebody who needs something. And there's a difference between the two. I can come and say, there's so-and-so who needs our help. Can we help him today? And maybe we'll pitch in something and help him. Or this country is suffering, or that country needs our help, or there's a famine or a disaster. Can we help them? That's one type of help. But she said, you are one who goes out and seeks those in need. You seek out those in need who need your help. You're always aware of your surroundings, aware of who needs help, and you go and you help them. Number 3, she said, you honor the guest. When you have a guest, you take care and you honor the guest. You give them the best of what you have. Of taking care of a guest, of a person who comes over, who visits, taking care and honoring them. Number 4, she said, you always speak the truth. When you speak to people, you are always known as one who speaks the truth. When people listen to you and they hear words coming out of your mouth, the thought never crosses their mind that you are about to lie to them, that you are going to dishonor them. When you make a promise, you keep that promise. So you always speak the truth. And this is something our Prophet ﷺ was known by, even before prophethood. Was known as someone who was truthful and honorable and just in his speech. And number 5, she said, you seek out those, or you help those, or you remove the calamity of those who are struck with the calamity. You remove the hardship of the one who was struck with the calamity. Now this is a little different from helping the poor and needy, because somebody who's struck with a hardship, it can be someone even wealthy. It can be someone who has plenty, but they went through a tough time. When the earthquake hit Japan a couple of years ago, one of the Muslim organizations was there helping and assisting those in need. And they said some of the people who were lining up to get the food and assistance were millionaires. Were people who were corporate CEOs, but they lost everything in that earthquake. So somebody who was struck with a calamity can be someone who has, or at one point they had. And this is something that we should all think about very seriously, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us in a situation and can completely put us in a different situation within a blink of an eye. So we should thank Allah for all of His blessings. So the 5th thing, and all 5 things she mentioned again, just to recap. Number 1, you honor the ties of kinship, you maintain family ties. Number 2, you take care of the poor and needy. Number 3, you always speak the truth. Number 4, you take care and you honor your guest. And number 5, you remove the hardship of the one struck with a calamity. Now all 5 of these things, my dear brothers and sisters, there's one unique thing that ties up all of these things, all of these characteristics, and that is honoring the rights of other human beings, honoring the rights of other people, taking care of other people, looking out for the best interest of other people. She could have mentioned to him that you are one who spends your days and your weeks in a cave worshiping Allah. You are one who secludes himself from the entire world and your family without barely anything to eat and drink, and you worship Allah. But she didn't mention that. She didn't mention your Lord will never disgrace you because you worship Him 24/7. Because that is something that He did for Himself, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Worshipping Allah is something that we do for ourselves. But she mentioned something which in our eyes might be smaller in significance, but was greater to them in their time, and that was helping other people. Taking care of the rights of other people. Making sure and understanding that my relationship with other people can affect my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How I treat an individual in my family can affect my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the simple example is the case of the mother. The case of the mother and the status of the mother in Islam. That cutting off the relationship between us and our mother is almost the same as cutting off the relationship between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That mercy coming from our mother is mercy coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this honoring the relationships of family ties, and how often do we see in our communities where husband and wife, where father and son, where mother and daughter, where the in-laws, where the uncles, the aunts, the cousins, oftentimes we see that because of something very insignificant, something very small, that we have brothers who don't talk to each other for years, sisters who cease to talk to each other for decades at a time. You know, we have siblings who might have children and we've never seen their faces. Why? Because of a small argument. Why? Because of something so insignificant. The Prophet ﷺ always emphasized and even mentioned in another narration of the ways to get a long life and to expand your life on earth is to maintain family ties, is to maintain the ties of kinship. So honoring and knowing the rights of your family and the rights of your guests and your neighbors and the poor and the needy in society and those who are struck with the hardship, and the importance of always speaking the truth. This is what the people, when he came with the message, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and of course not everyone, there was always the enemies of Islam, but many people, they said, including Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, this is someone who always spoke the truth. So he wouldn't make this up, that he's a messenger of God. He's someone who always was generous. He's someone who always maintained family ties. So this is someone that we'll listen to, will hear the message that he is coming with. So you and I, my dear brothers and sisters, when we're involved in our societies, in our communities, at work, at school, wherever we might be, and we're trying to give da'wah, and we're trying to give the message of Islam, well, we have to ask ourselves, the person that we're going to, maybe our neighbor, do they already know us before we approach them? Do they already know us as someone who is generous, as someone who is honest, as someone who is trustworthy? If we're talking to a co-worker or a fellow businessman or someone we work with about Islam, do they see us already as someone who is not corrupt, is not crooked in their dealings, in their business dealings? When we're going to a family member, maybe we converted to Islam, and we're going to a family member to talk to them about Islam, what do they know about our character? What do they know about who we are before we come and we try to give them this message? We go to our neighbors and we knock on their doors and we say, let me tell you about Islam. And they say, I haven't seen your face in the 10 years that you've been living next to me. Why? Because we never took it and made it a point to honor the rights of other human beings. that they have a right upon us. That yes, one of the rights is that we give them this message, but another right is that we just be good human beings to them. Is that we be kind and generous to them. That we don't cut off ties from them and from society and from those around us because we have a job to do. But that job starts with وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. One of the first verses revealed to the Prophet ﷺ in a time of hardship, in a time of struggle, in a time of persecution, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet, you are upon an exalted character. You have amazing character. Go to the people and show them what kind of character you have. So they recognized Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with these characteristics. So much so that even when they were driving him 13 years later out of his home, and he had to migrate to Medina, the night before he left, he had a bunch of possessions he gave to Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and he said, when I leave, return these to the people. He had all of these possessions and he gave to Ali, and he said, when I leave, give these back to the people. What were these possessions? The same individuals who hated the message that the Prophet ﷺ came with, the same individuals who were persecuting him and killing his followers, gave him their most precious of possessions because they knew that they can trust him. They knew that they can trust him and that he would never dishonor that trust. He was like a safe deposit box for the community. Anything they had, anything they needed to save, they would go and give it to the Prophet ﷺ. Then they would go and persecute him and his followers. But they knew whatever they gave him, he would never dishonor that trust. He would never dishonor that trust. What do the people say about us? What do our neighbors, our co-workers, fellow human beings, even our family members, what do they say about us? Can they say the same about us, that we maintain family ties, that we're honest and we speak the truth, that we help those in need, or are we always worried about ourselves? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the importance, and we live in communities and areas where there are many people in need. In the Muslim and non-Muslim communities, many people in need. And just as one example of the five of taking care of the poor and the needy, is something, a sunnah that is long forgotten, that we don't really pay attention to, that we're walking down the street and we see someone in need and we don't even take a second chance or a second look at that person. It doesn't even cross our minds, let me stop and fulfill the sunnah of helping this person, of honoring and taking care of this person. I'm not saying we have to give them money, just having a concern in our hearts, at least starting with that. Having a concern in our hearts. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we feed out of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the poor and the needy and the traveler. And we do it for what purpose? إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. That we do it to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't seek any thanks or any praise from the individual that we're helping. We do it simply because we have a duty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help those in need. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about those who reject the day of judgment. Look at the characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes them as. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمِ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. They are not ones who encourage the feeding of the poor. كَلَّا بَلْ لَا تُكْرِمُونَ الْيَتِيمِ وَلَا تَحَاضُّونَ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. You are ones who dishonor the orphan and you don't encourage the feeding of the poor and the hungry. Not even something we have to do ourselves, but encourage those who are doing it. And there are organizations, Muslim organizations around us that are carrying out these activities and these events to help and feed those in need. So we should be of one of two. Either we are on the ground doing the work, helping, and with our own hands feeding those and helping those who are in need, or we're encouraging and we're helping by providing resources for the ones who are doing it. And there are many. There are many in the community who are doing it. But encouraging, at least having that concern for those in need, for those who want. And also the element of brotherhood, which we'll talk about inshallah ta'ala in the second khutbah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to practice what we preach, and to implement what we learn. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله. الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Along with these 5 characteristics of the rights of other people, one word or one characteristics that kind of summarizes all 5 of these is the element of brotherhood. Something that has completely disappeared from our communities. Something that is completely lost on us is the characteristic of brotherhood. You know, we often say the verse, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ, the believers are one brotherhood. This has just become a tagline now. Right? Something nice to say the believers are brothers, are one brotherhood. But what does it truly mean to have and to maintain the element of brotherhood? That human element of loving for our brothers what we love for ourselves, as the Prophet ﷺ told us, that you will not believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And the companions, they understood this concept. What does it mean to love for my brother what I love for myself? Yes, it means exactly what it is saying. That if I love something so dearly for myself, if I love a car for myself, I would love for my brother to have that same car. If I love a house for myself, if I love a job for myself, I would love for my brother, my fellow human being, to have that same thing. I would love for them to have that same thing. Not that I would want it and I hope they have something less. Not that someone has something and I become jealous and say, why do they get that? Why can't I have that? Instead of saying they have it and I want it as well. The element of brotherhood, loving for your brother what you love for yourself. One of the companions, one day he was in the marketplace and he wanted to buy a horse. And he came across a man who was selling a horse and he asked him how much. And the man said 5 dinar. And the companion, he looked at the horse and he examined it. And he said, I'll give you 6. The man said, it costs 5. He said, I'll give you 6. And the man said, okay, I'll take 6. And he looked at it a little more and he examined it a little more. And he said, I'll give you 7. And he said, okay, you want to give me 7? I'll take 7. And he looked at it a little more and he said, I'll give you 8, and 9, and 10, and 11, up to 12. The man was asking for 5. He said, I'll give you 12. And he took it and he left. And his companion asked him, you know, he was willing to sell it to you for 5 and you gave him 12 for it. Something that doesn't make sense to you and I. But look at the mindset of the companions. He was in a position to bargain, and that's something that's allowed. That's something that's permissible. He could have said, you want 5, I'll only give you 4. Right? Just bargain with him. He could have done that. Instead, he drove the price up himself and said, I'll give you more than twice of what you're asking for. So when his companion, he said, why did you give him 12 when he's asking for 5? He said, did not the Prophet ﷺ say, love for your brother what you would love for yourself? He said, if I was selling that horse, I would love for someone to give me 12 for it. So I wanted to give him 12 for it as well. If I was in a position to sell this item, I would want someone to give me a lot for it. Which is the meaning of this. And he said, I would want him to have the same. Loving for him what I would love for myself. You know, Qasim Mazhr, he also understood this hadith. One time he was walking in the streets and he came across a group of people who were sitting and eating. And all they had was bread and water, and they invited him over to share in the meal with them. And so he sat there and he ate with them. And the evening time came and he asked his servant to prepare an entire feast. And he said, go and call those people and invite them to our house and let them enjoy this feast. And so his servant said, all they gave you was bread and water, and you're preparing an entire feast for them? He said, they gave me the best of what they had, and I am giving them the best of what I have. Love for your brother what you love for yourself. Doesn't always have to be an equal amount. Someone gave me one, I have to give one in return. No, someone who struggled to give you the best of what they have, we should struggle to give them the best of what we have, even if it's more or less. But the intention and the concern should be to love for our brothers what we love for ourselves. To love for humanity what we would love for ourselves. And the best gift that we have is the gift of Islam. Loving for others what we love for ourselves, to have guidance. And with that guidance comes responsibility. With that guidance comes good character. With that guidance comes loving and maintaining family ties. With that guidance comes speaking the truth. With that guidance comes the responsibility of helping the poor and the needy and those who are in a position of receiving when we're in the position of giving. Helping other people. And I conclude with the story of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. One time when he was Khalifa, he was walking in the streets, as he would normally do, which was his normal tradition. He would walk in the streets looking to see what is going on in his community. And this is a characteristic of a true leader, someone who is concerned with his people. He would walk the streets seeing if anybody needed anything, what is going on, who is doing what. And one time in a year of severe famine, he walked and he came across a family, a woman who was boiling rocks. And she didn't know this was Amirul Mu'mineen. She didn't know this was Umar ibn Khattab. And she was boiling rocks on a pot. And he went up to her and he asked her, what are you doing? Who cooks rocks? Who takes pebbles and starts to boil them? What are you possibly going to do with that? She said, we have absolutely nothing to eat or drink. And my children are starving and they're waiting over there for me to give them something to eat. I am cooking these rocks and taking my time so that while they're getting hungry, they end up falling asleep and I don't have to worry about feeding them because there is nothing to give them. And she said, wait till the day of judgment when I hold Amirul Mu'mineen accountable for this. Wait till I stand before Allah and complain about Amirul Mu'mineen for putting us in this position. And Umar, he left and he began to cry. And he went to the Baytul Mal and he took one of his servants with him. And he started to take whatever he could of wealth and food and sustenance, and he started to carry it to the house of this woman. And his servant said, oh Amirul Mu'mineen, why are you carrying this? Let me carry it for you. And Umar, he said, you will not carry my sins for me on the day of judgment. You will not carry my burden for me on the day of judgment. Let me carry this myself. And he went to the woman and the family, and he gave her all the food, and he watched her cook it, and he sat in the corner, and he said, I wanted to wait till she finished, and she fed her children, because I wanted to see the smile on the faces of the children. This was the concern that they had. They understood, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً. They didn't just talk about it, they practiced it. They understood love for your brother what you love for yourself. They didn't just speak it, but they practiced it. They put it into practice in their everyday lives. So going back to the first revelation, and a fearful time for the Prophet ﷺ, there were no better words that his wife could have comforted him by than by telling him, in short, you honor the rights of other human beings. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will honor your rights. أَلَمْ يَجِدِكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى. Allah told the Prophet, were you not an orphan and I took care of you? So as for the orphans, do not dishonor him. Allah said, I gave you when you didn't have anything. So as for the one in need, do not forget him. Allah gave us, expecting for us to give to others. Doesn't expect anything in return from us, except that we show gratitude for what we have, and we give to others. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to practice what we preach and to implement what we learn. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from trials and tribulations. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who give instead of receiving. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that on the day when we will receive, to give us our books in our right hand instead of our left hands. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداء الدين واحمي روزة الإسلام يا رب العالمين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع مجيب الدعوات. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأعتق رقابنا من النار. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأعتق رقابنا ورقاب والدينا من النار. أعتق رقابنا ورقاب أزواجنا وذرياتنا من النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين. وصل اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.